to get noticed, and our message to all of you is to get serious about marketing. Definitely take it seriously, because just writing the software and sticking it up there is not a strategy. You got to back it up with some serious groundwork. So that's what we want you guys to kind of learn to do.
Great. So I'd like to just, this is going to be more like a Q&A format. What I'd like to do is probably just talk about, as a panelist, a few questions for about 30 minutes or 40 minutes or so. But what I want to do is keep this as casual as possible. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to kind of jot them down. And at the end of the panel, I'm going to open it up for at least 30 minutes or so, kind of for you guys to ask the panel experts on what kind of things you guys are interested in. But I'm most interested in, for Gear, for Doodle Jump, Igor and Bryan, kind of tell me about your story. How did you guys get started? Did you guys kind of start off as a pet project, or have you guys always thought of like, I'm going to come out and make $3 million from, So tell me about your story.
After all the photography work and the videography work dried up for me in Las Vegas, I was working construction and doing iPhone work kind of on the side, and not seeing a lot of success from that. And when I actually launched Geared, it kind of launched and started doing $150 a day before I had even advertised or anything. And I was super excited just from that, matching what I was doing in construction in unair-conditioned 130-degree building, So even people around were like, hey, are you going to come in on Monday, making $150 a day passively? And then I borrowed money from family to advertise it on Touch Arcade. And I've heard some people that haven't had great success from that, but I think someone at Apple must have seen the ad, because shortly right near the end of the advertisement and the review on Touch Arcade, it hit the What's Hot category, and right at that point it just spiked straight up to #1.
So we can talk about advertising a little bit, but just a little bit. But how about Igor? Kind of tell me a little bit about how Lima got started.
How did we get started? Well, when Apple announced that they were opening up the App Store to third-party developers, and there were 10 million iPhones already in the wild, and iTunes has already proven itself as a really good platform to sell songs, and all that someone having that iPhone would have to do is click a single button to purchase something. It looked like a fantastic opportunity to be able to create something small and then sell it for a small price, for like 99 cents. And people will buy something for 99 cents as long as they don't have to enter a credit card or information about themselves. So the fact that Apple then decided that they were only taking 30% to take care of the billing, to take care of the distribution in the entire world, was too good to be true. But so that was sort of one of the things that got on my radar, and I told my brother, look, we got to do something, we got to try it. And he was at a time in Croatia, and I'm not sure if you guys are familiar, but you basically don't make very much money working there. And he was working at a company that was not doing very well, was kind of going under. So my initial thought was, let me get him, let's start working together, let me get him something where we can make a couple $100 a month, so he doesn't have, he sort of doesn't have to worry about his job, and I'll make some nice pocket change that I can spend on drinks and dinners. Partially from some of my experience and starting some websites before where it makes a couple $100 a month. So we decided we would try entering the space with something really simple that could be a huge thing because it's just so silly. So the first thing we started working on was a bubble wrap simulator, and it took we were first going to both program, then my brother started programming because he had a little more experience there. I just decided to do the art, and I'm thinking, well, how long can it take to take a photo of the bubble wrap and just put it in there? And 2 weeks later, I still didn't have one that I liked. Meanwhile, my brother's trying to learn Objective-C from scratch, Took him like 3 days to figure out how to get the sounds to work. And we have no idea what's going to happen, to the point where I'm debating whether the $100 for the license, for the developer license, is the money well spent. But I'm like, okay, I'll make that investment. We had the computers already, so that wasn't a big deal. But so that's the start. I guess best.
So I have a quick follow-up question on that. So when you guys started off, kind of that sounds like kind of a pet project almost, like with Bryan starting at $150 a day, and Lima's guy was pouring around trying to make sure everything worked. Have you guys thought about how do I turn this into a business? Once you started kicking off, a lot of sales started ramping up. Have you guys thought about, do I need to incorporate so that I can, protect my company, separate my personal versus corporations, or what's your guys' thoughts?
I'm currently on the App Store as an individual, and that happened because that just happened to be the easiest possible way to get up there. I didn't need a tax ID number. I didn't need to go down and register a business. And at the time, I, not thinking about branding or anything, I just thought, when I look, buy a game, do I say, hey, is it from a company or is it an individual? And does that determine quality? And I never really had looked, so I figured, all right, it's not going to hurt me to do it as an individual, and I don't think it really has. But now I'm thinking more about branding, so it's definitely something I'm going to think about in the future in doing more games and becoming, a company name that kind of becomes its entire, a brand on its own.
So initially, pet project, you really don't have the time or thought or really reason to go in and incorporate or set anything up. But after a couple of months, when we actually saw there was something in it, and by that I mean, we were making $200 a day, we decided that, okay, it's time to look into getting some kind of protection, mainly for the fear of being sued by someone or something like that. And we looked into different options, and LLC seemed like the easiest thing to do. But then it took a couple of months to actually get it done because there was no rush, and we were really working hard on the games. And probably took me a year from when I got the LLC to talking to Apple to actually change the name on the App Store from my name, which was there at the beginning, to Lima Sky. But honestly, I also I think a name is a good thing, because the company name is a good thing, because you don't necessarily want to know everyone that you're the one behind it, So, but then Bryan said, well, I want to be an individual, and there's a plus to that as well. But I think it's well understood that there are small companies and indies there, so you should do it. I mean, especially if you're making any kind of money, it's easier to protect yourself.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys. We actually had another expert from Cooley, Craig Jacoby. I have a question for you, which is, so now these guys are talking about, the advantage of being independent individual, LLC. And I know when PlayHaven first got incorporated, we had no idea that, the differences between LLC, C Corp, S Corp, all those different entities that, it was really confusing. So can you kind of talk about what are the differences between each? What are the advantages of each, disadvantages, and as an indie developer, what kind of things they should be thinking about? Especially when they're thinking about protecting themselves, from their kind of business properties.